Deep within the heart of the forest, where the sun's warm rays struggled to penetrate the canopy above, two friends embarked on a journey that would test their resolve and push them to the brink of terror. Their mission was to venture into the woods for a night's rest, fueled by a mix of curiosity and perhaps a dash of mischief. As they strolled along the winding path, the sun casting dappled shadows on the forest floor, it seemed like any other idyllic afternoon. The air was alive with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers and the gentle chirping of birds, lulling them into a false sense of security. But as the day wore on and the sky transformed into a deep shade of indigo, an unsettling silence began to creep in, like a thief stealing away the last remnants of daylight. Panic started to seep into their veins as they realized they were lost, utterly, completely, and irretrievably lost in the forest. The dense underbrush seemed to writhe around them like living tendrils, making every step feel like a perilous journey through an alien landscape. The trees loomed above, their branches creaking ominously in the wind, creating an eerie melody that echoed through the night. As night began to fall, casting long shadows across the forest floor, the friends' desperation grew with each passing moment. They quickened their pace, but it was too late. The darkness seemed to swallow everything in its path, leaving them disoriented and vulnerable. The trees appeared as giants, their branches twisting into grotesque forms that reached out like skeletal fingers. Just when all hope seemed lost, a glimmer of light pierced the darkness, an old, weathered hut nestled among the trees, shining like a beacon of safety in the night. With hearts full of relief and exhaustion, the friends stumbled towards it, grateful for the respite from their ordeal. As they entered the hut, the creaky door groaned in protest, but they didn't care. They were too spent to notice anything else except the welcome darkness within. They collapsed onto the makeshift bed, exhausted from their journey and the weight of fear that had settled in their chests. But just as they began to drift off into a fitful sleep, a sudden knock on the door shattered the silence like a crack of thunder. The friends froze, their hearts racing with fear. Who, or what, could be outside? Was it some lost traveler, seeking refuge from the night, or something far more sinister lurking in the shadows? They stood paralyzed, too scared to open the door and investigate. The moments ticked by at a glacial pace as they waited for, whatever it was, to make its next move. Had they imagined the knock altogether? Maybe their minds were playing tricks on them after all that time in the wilderness. But just as they began to relax, another sound echoed through the night, heavy footsteps, like the pounding of giant drums in the distance. The friends exchanged a terrified glance, and without saying a word, they knew what had to be done. They tried not to make a sound as one of them crept towards the window, hoping against hope that it would reveal some clue about their mysterious visitor. As he peered out into the darkness, his eyes beheld something that made his blood run cold, a creature unlike any they had ever seen before. Its massive frame loomed in the shadows, its fur glistening with dew like dark silk. The creature moved with a slow, deliberate pace, as if savoring every step towards their little sanctuary. The friends were frozen in terror, unsure whether to scream or cry. They could only watch in horror as the creature continued its deliberate approach. What would it do next? Would it break down the door and storm into their refuge? The night seemed to unfold around them like a living, breathing entity with secrets of its own. As they waited with bated breath, the creature drew closer, its presence filling the air with an unspeakable malevolence. The friends' hearts were racing with fear, their minds reeling from the impossible sight before them. They knew that they had to act quickly, but what could they do against a monster of such unfathomable power? Would they escape alive, or would the darkness consume them whole? The silence was broken only by the heavy breathing of the creature, its eyes fixed on the hut like two glowing embers in the night. The friends were trapped, and their fate hung precariously in the balance, a delicate dance between life and death, played out under the stars in the heart of the forest. The great mystery that lingered in the darkness of the forest, shrouded in an eerie silence. It was as if the very trees themselves were holding their breath, anticipating something, but what? The friends, huddled together in the small hut, had made a decision to wait out the unknown, sitting motionless and silent like statues. The hours ticked by at a glacial pace, each one feeling like an eternity. The night wore on, its shadows deepening and twisting into grotesque shapes that danced across the walls of the hut. But still, nothing stirred outside. No rustling leaves, no snapping twigs, no distant growl or screech pierced the air. Just silence. The friends sat in stony silence, their eyes fixed on some unseen point ahead, their faces pale and tense with anticipation. They had been waiting for what felt like an eternity, but still, nothing happened. The darkness outside seemed to thicken, like a palpable fog that wrapped itself around the hut, suffocating all sound and movement. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, morning broke over the forest. The sky lightened, the trees began to stir, and with it, the friends breathed a collective sigh of relief, but also confusion. What was it they had been waiting for? A bear? A monster from the depths of the forest's darkest recesses? Or something altogether more inexplicable? Even years later, the friends would gather around campfires and recount this story in hushed tones, their eyes wide with wonder and awe. They still couldn't agree on what it was, a bear, some sort of supernatural creature, or perhaps something else entirely, something that defied explanation and understanding. The mystery remained unsolved, shrouded in the misty veil of the forest, leaving behind only one thing, an unsettling feeling that there are some secrets that will forever remain beyond human comprehension.